Yes, hello, fairy tale fangs. Today, we are diving into the deep blue sea of shark tale collecting and looking at not one, but actually two different lines of shark tale figures that you and I wish we had as kids. Shark Tale was a movie I grew up with, and I know the film definitely has had a mixed reception online over the years, especially during the 2010s when everyone hated this movie. But I think for those of us in Generation Z that grew up on this movie, it holds a special place in our hearts. 2004 was a big year for me. It was the year of Shrek 2, and it was the year that really kickstarted a lifetime of collecting cartoons and animation. And as a kid obsessed with Shrek, the other animated movies out at the time just didn't really click for me. I remember owning DVDs of Monsters Inc. and even Finding Nemo and just not caring for them. But you can imagine my reaction when the summer of 2004 closed with a very different type of movie. I remember watching the trailers. It looked like Finding Nemo, but it didn't feel like Finding Nemo. It felt like something for big kids, like something I shouldn't be watching. It was mature, it was cool, it was edgy, and it was from the creators of Shrek. They really wanted to let you know that Shark Tale was a Shrek-adjacent movie. And this was actually the first movie I can remember begging my parents to take me to see. And me and my dad went on opening day, a decision he tells me he still regrets to this day. Those characters, Oscar, Angie, Lenny, they always resonated with me. I had some of the plush and kids' meal toys, but I really wanted action figures, because that's what I liked. And I didn't know it, but they actually made two different sets of toys that are highly elusive and very rare. I would go as far to say that some of these figures are the rarest Dreamworks figures ever made. I've been looking for years for these guys. And today I have a mostly complete set. There's still a little bit of holes in the collection, but it's complete enough to where I can share it with you guys, and we can look into the cool world of the Shark Tale collecting deep blue sea. If you're thinking, well, I had some Shark Tale toys, well, Shark Tale did have a lot of merchandise. It wasn't a film that was under-merchandised. There was a tie-in video game, a storybook. There were lots of what I call lifestyle items, stuff like pens, school supplies, pillowcases, and bedding. All of the stuff you would expect for a major franchise release, which is honestly pretty unusual for a new IP, but they must have just had faith in DreamWorks after Shrek that this was going to be the next big franchise. But there weren't traditional toys and figures, at least not easily available. The most common Shark Tale toys were the kids' meal toys. There was a Burger King line and a Carl's Jr. line. So two different lines. Yeah, there was a high chance you at least had one of these. And they were nice figures. They definitely deserve their own video. But they're not really playable as action figures. They all have an action feature. They don't really work well in a play environment, not like traditional figures were. Well, if I had only known it at the time, there was a Shark Tale figure line and even a Shark Tale playset. It just wasn't available to the general public. Yes, both of these lines had a bit of a confusing release. The first of the Shark Tale figure lines was a miniature line of figures that came in a playset of the reef. This was the exact type of toy I would have wanted as a kid. It gives you every key Shark Tale character and allows you to play in an environment inside of a giant fold-up Lenny. The presentation is just so cool. The sculpts on these are phenomenal. The second line of figures is a slightly larger, more detailed line from Hasbro. Now, the Hasbro figures were released to Walmart stores, but not in huge quantities. From what I could gather online, this set of figures seems to be most common in places like the Netherlands. They did have a United States release, but again, it was super limited. I don't know why these are just so incredibly rare. I just can't imagine Walmart got a ton of these. As a matter of fact, most of the listings I've seen online over the years of collecting have almost always had clearance price tags on them, which led me to believe these may have been sent straight to closeout. Either way, despite the Hasbro set being the one that was sold at stores, it is easily the rarer of the two Shark Tale figure sets. This is a tough set to complete. But I'm happy to say that after several years, literally years of fishing around on auction sites and flea markets, I have assembled a mostly complete set of Shark Tale toys from both companies that made them. So we're going to do what we do best. We're going to flip the camera around and get a detailed look at these amazing figures and also discover some of the fascinating history behind these toys. So let's take a plunge into the reef of Sharktail toys. Okay, so first we're going to start off with the reef playset, and check this out. So this is the Sharktail reef. We'll get a good look at it in a moment, but it actually folds up into, it's a little tricky, wait, into a giant Lenny. Wow, and you thought Steve was the first large-size Jack Black toy. How cute and adorable is this? It reminds me of one of those old Micro Machine toys. So it's a big Lenny, and then when you click it open here, see if I can get it again, it folds into the reef. And what's amazing is that it has multiple 3D elements here that fold up inside of Lenny. We have the newsstand from the movie, the entrance into, I think that's supposed to be a subway, along with all of this detail. I mean, the sculpting on here is absolutely immaculate, and those little spots where each character clicks into the base with their name imprinted. I mean, what a cool toy and display piece. Even the background is a beautiful piece of concept artwork of the reef. It's not even an actual still from the film. And that may give us our first hint at what this toy's deal is. So why does this exist? Well, this toy actually released before Sharktail came out, a while before. You'll notice the Sharktail logo is actually pre-released. This is not the finalized logo. The colors are different, the font's a little different. This exact logo was designed by Thom Sillinger, hopefully I'm saying his name right, and I'll link his blog in the description of the video. We can actually see the production process that went into designing this title, including some alternate versions, like the one for Shark Slayer, and a title called A Shark's Tale that we never got to see, so that's pretty neat. So yes, this toy was actually not commercially available. It was a marketing gimmick given to film press, film magazines, people who write for like Entertainment Weekly and Deadline, as well as, I believe, movie theater upper management to sort of promote Sharktail and be like, hey, this is a movie you're going to want to put on your screens. And then if we turn it back over again, we can look on the bottom and see the companies that put this together. It says, designed and manufactured by Post No Bills Incorporated and Snap Toys LLC. So Post No Bills, I looked them up. They're a marketing firm for movies that thinks of weird, off-kiltered ways to market your movies. And they usually do this by designing an item that they send to press and trade. And they did this for quite a few Dreamworks movies. There are some very rare and desirable Shrek promotional items they gave out. But for whatever reason, Sharktail got the full treatment. It got this beautiful toy. The whole thing was designed by Post No Bills, but it was manufactured by Snap Toys. They are a legit toy company. They made most of the toys for the Disney Store. So anything that was marked Disney Store, chances are, was probably designed by them. So that's the Reef playset. Now we're going to look at some of the fun figures that go in here, starting with good old Oscar. There he is. The colors on this guy, wow. They really pop. They really pop. It looks amazing. And because this is a pre-release toy, the character designs look a little off, like ever so slightly off. Like Oscar's fins look too short, the colors look a little too complicated. And from what I could gather, these sculpts are based off of a series of trading cards that were given out by Dreamworks when the movie was called Shark Slayer. So maybe those cards were used as a reference. A lot of the poses either line up or they look similar enough to where you can see an artist looked at the card and interpreted that for the sculpt. Now, believe it or not, we actually know who sculpted these exact figures because I found a blog post by a gentleman named Richard Hernandez, and he sculpted a lot of cool stuff for like Star Wars, other movie promotions. I'll link his DeviantArt in the description, known as Dark Wax, where he uploaded all of this stuff. There's even some really incredible furry and anthro stuff that I quite like, though viewer discretion, of course, is definitely advised there. Well, he sculpted these fish figures. And funnily enough, in his blog post, he calls it for the movie Shark Tales, which I wonder if that's a typo or if that actually was one of the working titles for the movie, because again, these are pre-release figures. So here's Oscar, and then here's Angie. You can also see Angie heavily inspired by the look of that artwork and not necessarily the look of the film. Still, I mean, gorgeous design work on these. I always love a good anthro fish design, and I actually believe the shark tail character designs are kind of amazing. They got a lot of flack over the years for looking uncanny, but like, how else are you going to anthropomorphize a fish, man? Like, yes, it is supposed to be Will Smith as a fish, and if you were tasked with designing Will Smith as a fish, this is what you'd come up with. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know, I always had a thing for Angie, I won't lie. I know most people, it's, see if I can find her here. Lola, right? Lola's like the hot fish, but Lola scared me as a kid. She's like a bad guy, you know? Spoiler alert for Shark Tale. So let's zoom out here and let's click our figures into the spot. So Oscar goes where it's labeled. Oscar, Angie goes, Angie goes all the way in the back. Just like in the movie, she's shunned by Oscar in favor of the hot stuff Lola. If only Oscar knew what he wanted the whole time is right in front of him. Or in this case, right behind him. Actually, the posing on this fits the movie, oddly enough. Look at Angie, how she's longingly looking at Oscar, who's just hanging out with Lola. I mean, there's no way that Richard Hernandez knew that when he designed these toys for a pre-release movie, but pretty interesting. Okay, so next up is Sykes, that's right, Martin Scorsese, Pufferfish, and, yep, that's definitely him. God, the paint work is great on these figures. Oh, and you know what? The bottoms tell you who plays each character. So, Martin Scorsese as Sykes, and if we remove Lola here, Angelina Jolie as Lola. They really wanted to let you know, Dreamworks has the celebrities. We have Will Smith in our movie. Or, in the case of Angie here, if I can get her out. Look at that. Here we can see Renee Zellweger as Angie. That's very impressive they fit that name onto such a small base. They really wanted to let you know that these celebrities were in this movie. And actually, I have one of the boxes that these came in because, if you believe it or not, these toys came in their own individual boxes. And hey, look, there's the 2D artwork I mentioned, which kind of confirms what I had just speculated, that these figures are loosely designed on the artwork. I say loosely because, again, it's not an exact match, but you can see what elements of the sculpt line up, like how she curves here, the hair goes down. It doesn't quite look like the on-screen character. It does look more like this artwork. And it says, Angie, played by Renee Zellweger, is Oscar's best friend and receptionist at the whale wash. She's an angelfish, a sweetheart, and, unbeknownst to Oscar, madly in love with him. Okay, so now we have a description. Maybe this packaging was designed alongside Hernandez's sculpts, and maybe he did know what the characters' relationships were, because that is too good of a coincidence to have it sculpted where the characters are all interacting perfectly. Look at Oscar talking with Sykes, as Lola kind of hangs out as his side piece, and then Angie looks longingly upon him. Like, it makes for a pretty incredible statue that tells the story of the movie. That is some brilliant design work. But looking again at this packaging, and they even put Renee Zellweger on the box. Look at this glamour shot of her with her hair blowing in the wind, or maybe it's floating underwater. Well, ages 8 and up, that seems really high for a toy, but, you know, joking hazard, they're tiny. And yeah, she actually came, like, twist-tied in here. This was the only one I got packaged, so I did open her up here. And it says Shark Tale in theaters, October 1st, sharktale.com. And you'll notice it says 2003, I marked a year before release, and there's no barcode. So again, this is a pre-release item. By the time the movie came out, little kid Austin would not have known about these because they would have been long in the hands of film production and film press and trade magazines, all that stuff. And it's such a shame because it is a beautiful set of toys, and had they put something like this at retail, I think it would have sold incredibly. So now we're going to look at the sharks, because we've said Shark Tale so many times without an actual shark. It's Lenny, aka Jack Black. Before he was really in everything, this was an early Jack Black role, but easily one of his more iconic for our youth. Yeah, so he goes over here. On the other side, we're going to put some of the shark characters. So, here is Frankie, right? Okay, hopefully I'm saying this right. Michael Imperioli as Frankie. Spoiler alert, he dies pretty early on. And starts the whole movie when Oscar becomes the Shark Slayer. Okay, Rastafarian jellyfish. Yeah. Oh, man. Look at all the detail painted on their face. I mean, again, it's pretty impressive Fish are not easy to capture in toy form. They're very translucent, they have lots of color going on, and these were probably developed on like a shoestring budget. So there's Dougie Doug as Barney, and Ziggy Marley as Arnie. Yep, that is the Ziggy Marley as Arnie, which is very funny because in the movie, he tells Oscar that he's not singing Bob Marley's songs correctly. See, it's funny. Do you get the joke? Is Shark Tale actually funny, or is it ironically funny? I have yet to answer this question myself. As a teenager, I ironically watched it a lot when they aired it on Cartoon Network, but as an adult, I watch it with some sincerity now, and really appreciate the movie for its craftsmanship, animation, and its witty humor. I also think its message about learning to love what you have in life, even if it isn't, the top of the reef, is really heartfelt and incredible. Oscar doesn't know it, but Angie's right in front of him the whole time and is the perfect girl. Yet he aspires to have Lola, a woman that's awful and evil. We have two more, and this is where things get interesting. So let's talk about the octopus first. The one that orders a pizza. I think his name is Luca. Yes, I got it. It's Vincent Pastore as Luca. He's like pepperoni, sausage. There is Luca. And then finally, our last figure. Do you even remember this character? Do you know who this is? This is the old man shark that farts. That's pretty much all he does in the movie. But that is the Peter Falk as Don Brizzy. Yes, the Columbo Peter Falk in a cameo role. But it gets more interesting than that because it lists his name as Don Brizzy. But that's not his name in the movie. If you watch the credits, his name is Don Feinberg, not Don Brizzy. So what the heck happened here? Well, when Shark Tale was making the pre-release rounds, and again, Dreamworks was promoting this movie very early with the trading cards and this entire set of figures, they wanted the movie to be very well known in the film press by giving out these cool little figures, and they may have gotten more than they bargained for because they were met with massive opposition and protests from the Italic Institute that claimed the movie was highly offensive to Italians. Yes, this really happened. Dreamworks faced massive backlash from the industry, and get this was before a single trailer for the movie had been released. They actually had not seen any of the movie. They were going just by the early marketing material, like the trading cards and these figures. Dreamworks made it pretty clear that it was a parody of mafia movies and should not be taken as a film that made fun of Italian stereotypes. But a guy named John Mancini, he really led the charge, and Dreamworks decided to rename one of the characters to make him Jewish. So they took Don Brizzy here and they made him Don Feinberg, and they told the press that he was now a Jewish shark. So now everyone gets to be in the mafia. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of the mafia? I think the mob's cool. But Dreamworks released a statement from a lady named Terry Press, who said the movie is about family and telling the truth and the cost of a lie. She added, "You wish they would wait until they'd seen the movie before attacking it." I do like the movie, and I do think it's fun, and I don't think it's overly offensive. I think there's bigger fish to fry out there, pun intended. If you're going to look for offensive movies, I could think of bigger films to target and look for. I don't think Shark Tale is gonna ruin the Italian community. I think it's just a little throwback to mob movies, but because of that protest, this figure was renamed, and I bet you this figure played a part in that because, again, there was no trailer released for the movie. They were just promoting it to the film press with other creative means, and boy, did they get into some other creative means by designing this entire playset and giving it out. Now, I don't have Don Lino, unfortunately, the big mob boss himself. Kind of a big hole to have in the collection, but this is a very difficult set of figures to assemble. I have simply spent too much money trying to assemble this set of figures, but I wanted to save some money for the other Shark Tale figures, which we will now transition to. Okay, so now we move on to the Hasbro action figures. And I say action figures very loosely because they don't do a whole lot. They have like one little mechanism, if even that. So Here is Oscar, and you're supposed to rotate this dial, and he slaps. Yes, they gave the Will Smith action figure hand-to-hand combat action. Oh dear. Keep my fish wife's name out your mother glubbin' mouth. It was a G.I. Jane 2 joke. But joking aside, this is the Hasbro Sharktail Oscar, and these figures were released much closer to the movie's release, and they were shipped to big box retail. However, that doesn't mean they got a full retail release. My personal speculation is that these figures had a regional retail release, because I went to Walmart a lot as a kid, especially during this time period. It was right across the street from my family's apartment complex. I was literally going every other day to get groceries, and if I had seen these, I would have wanted them, and I would have begged for them. And these figures are exceedingly rare. And despite the rarity, I actually think this is the nicer set of figures. They're definitely more dynamic. They're very action posed, and they have this translucent plastic that really makes all the difference in making these more believable as fish. If you want like a set of Sharktail figures, this is like the Black Series of Sharktail collecting. This is your premium figure. It looks really nice. Now, we are going to do comparisons, so let's start off with Oscar here. And you can see both Oscars side by side. And what we have are two very different figures. However, when you put them side by side, the comparison gets a little more complex. There's no doubt that Hernandez did much better work with the colors. Granted, he may not have been in charge of the colors. He was just the sculptor of these. But whoever did the paint apps, I mean, they did a great job. This one pops. This one's much more dull and faded. But then again, I like the translucency more on the Hasbro figure. So, yeah, I don't know how to feel which one I like more. I think, in the wise words of Miguel and Tulio, both are good. And again, in terms of rarity, the Hasbro one, infinitely more difficult to find than the promotional one, which is weird. You'd think this one would be tougher to find because it was just given to press and outlets. But another piece of speculation I have is they gave these figures to like prestige Hollywood press. That was why they ended up creating a protest movement over these toys. They gave them to people that really had no business with them. Like, we're talking auteur film people that review movies, very, very pretentious people in Hollywood that do not want a cartoon Will Smith toy. So I'm going to guess that most Hollywood people gave this to their kids or donated them. And that's why you see a lot more of these floating about. And then you have these figures, which didn't sell well. The only listings I ever see online seem to have Walmart closeout tags on them. They were probably just dumped to landfills. Heck, these may not have even made it to Walmart proper. You know, Walmart donates a lot of their stuff to Goodwill that they can't find shelf space for. So maybe these just went straight to thrift stores and closeout shops like Ross and Burlington and stuff like that. But either way, very interesting. Okay, next comparison. We actually have another Oscar here. And I should note, these were originally sold in two sets of figures. So there were two different packs these came in. They weren't individually carded. But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to combine them in this video and look at it by character. That way we can do the direct comparisons. This second Oscar here is the only incomplete figure in my collection. He does not have his ocean base, so he falls right over. It's also scene specific. It's specifically right when he kills Frankie and he is faking these karate moves. Although, I'll be honest, the black eye would have been a nice touch since he is wounded in this scene, but we'll forgive Hasbro. It's still a nice figure. So you can see the difference here between a figure that was designed with just one piece of production artwork and then a figure that was designed clearly by people that had at least seen the movie or seen footage from the movie. So, again, you got to give points to Hernandez here for designing a very competent figure without knowing anything about the character. The Hasbro designers, and I do wish I knew who designed these because they are very distinct looking, had the hindsight of the movie itself. What is interesting is that these don't seem to be direct scans of the movie model. That technology just wasn't there yet in the toy industry. This was still a time when a lot of toys were sculpted by hand, and then that hand sculpt would be digitized into a computer. So someone out there sculpted these very distinct looking toys, and I would love to know who did it. Maybe it was an outside studio like Varnell Studios who was contracted by Hasbro. I don't know, but I would love to know. Look at this, Will Smith's laughing and bullying in Will Smith's face. Is this Gemini Man? And next up is Angie. Angie has no articulation. She is just a PVC figure. And this is a very interesting sculpt. I don't think it looks a whole lot like Angie. And you'll see that when I put the other version on. And you can really see, like, look at the face, the colors. Honestly, neither of these figures particularly looks like Angie. She's a difficult character to capture in plastic form. She has this demure, sweet look to her. And I think the pre-release figure captured that demure expression and look a whole lot better. Now, that said, the colors on this one are really not anything like the movie. The Hasbro figure does a much better job with colors and texture. The clear fin, the smooth body, for lack of a better word, or smooth body with the shiny plastic, it really gives that, like, shapely form she's supposed to have in the movie, because something Sharktail did really brilliantly is that they made the fish look like people with just their fins. So if you look at Angie's design here, they gave her long hair and a long curvy dress just in the form of fins, and I think that is really brilliant. And Hasbro did a great job of capturing her body. But one thing they did not capture is the face. The face on this is just not good. They made her look almost a little too seductive. She looks a little too Lola-esque. Angie was always way more sweet, kind, and innocent than Lola. And I actually have the Burger King toy here, and we may have a situation where the Burger King toy is in fact the superior figure of Angie. Now, it's obviously a lot bigger, partly because she's on this big base here, which lets her dance. Let's see that in motion. If I can wind it up here. Wow, look at that. That's amazing. And loud and annoying. But she comes off of the base, and we have a nice figure of Angie, and we can directly compare all three Angie figures. And wow, the fact that these are all three the same character is so fascinating. Three very different Angies, and I definitely think Burger King captures the spirit of the character the best. I still like this one and this one a lot. None of these figures are bad by any means. They're all just different. The Hasbro one, you know, the face sculpt's not perfect, but again, that shininess used for the fish skin just really makes the figure pop and display really well. The Burger King one uses a lot of flat colors, even though it has the best sculpt. I do really like the sculpt for this one. There's just so much charm and personality sculpted into this figure. So you'll have to let me know in the comments which Angie you like the best. I think all three of these figures are really good, but if you do want a movie-accurate Angie to go with your figures, then the Burger King figure is really not a bad choice. And if you're curious about scaling, you know, she doesn't look too out of place with the Oscar figures they made. Actually, she looks pretty good with the Oscar figures they made. And come to think of it, the Hasbro one almost looks a little undersized. So yeah, maybe the Burger King figure is the one you want to display with your Oscar figure. So if you get Oscar, you know, track down this Angie, because they look really good together. And he can bring her Kelpie creams, right? He can bring her fresh Kelpie creams. I always wanted Kelpie creams. That looks delicious and amazing. Wow. Angie. She's got lots of figures, and they're all pretty good. I have to round out our main trio with Lenny, the shark in our shark tail. And this is just a nice PVC figure. He actually does not have an action feature either. Only a few of these have action features. It is interesting that Hasbro decided to go this route and not make traditional action figures, but let's be real. Fish are tough to translate as figures. I mean, it can be done if you're a very talented designer. Somebody out there could design like a Sharktail Black Series Marvel Legends looking toy line, and heck, I would buy it, but for the most part, the PVCs get the job done. And what I like about these is Hasbro sculpted these very nice aquatic bases to make them look like they are hovering. You know, it's a little detail, but making it translucent and putting that really nice sculpting work in there with all of the bubbles, it goes a long way in making this figure look much more premium than it actually is. And Lenny here, I do have the kids' meal toys by me, so we can directly compare and see simply how much better Hasbro did than Burger King and then Carl's Jr. Like, there's no question this was the Shark Tale toy you wanted as a kid. There's one more figure of Lenny, or should I say, Sebastian, the whale washing dolphin. Yes, they made a figure of Lenny's dolphin disguise, better known as Sebastian. And this, oh my god, this is so great. They got his little tool belt, they got his scarf, they even got his little wrappings with his fake dolphin nose. If the camera will focus, there we go. Look at that. That is adorable. This is such a unique figure. It is scene specific, which I love to see. And yeah, I don't think we'll ever get a figure of Sebastian the whale washing dolphin again. So treasure this one. That is just really, really fantastic. Hasbro definitely did their homework with this set. And they made a set of figures that, God, I think the Hasbro Shark Tale set is better than the Hasbro Shrek 2 set of figures. Like, how crazy is that to say? But they made everyone from the movie. They got all the deep cuts in there. That is fantastic. Now we've got Mr. Sykes with a very funny looking sculpt. Look at this, man. Okay, so at first it is very off-putting and freaky looking, but it takes some time to get used to. And if you watch the movie, I think this is actually a better representation than this. I know the whole upright puffer fist is a little coarse to people. It's a little weird to look at, but if you actually watch Shark Tale, he does do this a lot, where he makes himself look more anthropomorphic, and it's very unsettling, but he's got a freaky design, and I think Hasbro captured that well. I mean, look at that face. Look at that face. Two Martin Scorsese fish faces that only a mother could love. We're gonna do Barney and Ernie together to save on time here. And wow, these are some incredible, incredible figures. The sculpting on them is phenomenal. The dreads they have, the jellyfish dreads, are all separate pieces with translucent plastic, so it starts out solid and look, it's clear by the end of each dread. I mean, that is an incredible detail. The little beanies, the Rastafarian beanies, are squishy. They're like slightly squishy with hard plastic underneath to give them a very dimensional look. I mean, these are super premium, super nice figures. And if you want to compare both here, again, while the tiny ones are nice and detailed, yeah, there's no question that the Hasbro figures are better by a mile. And I think stuff like this is why the Hasbro set of figures is so much more desirable than, honestly, an already desirable set of figures, because, I mean, these are the ones you want to display. They look really amazing. Yeah, I got nothing bad here to say. Only props and kudos to Hasbro for figuring out how to sculpt action figures of Rastafarian jellyfish with all of their detailed and translucent pieces. This is honestly an achievement in toy design for a non-articulated figure. They look just incredible. Yeah, that's a home run. Alright, here's Angelina Jolie as the spicy and evil Lola. Well, how did they do? Did they capture her fist curves well? I think they did. This is a very Lola figure. There's no doubt who this character is. They got her shapely form, her long hair. I mean, look at that detail on the back of the hair. That is amazing. And then comparing it with the other figure, I think they both did a good job, but the Hasbro one, again, beats it out by a mile and a half. The Hasbro figure has better coloring. You'll notice with this figure, they used the tan colors all the way through, whereas this one mixes it with some like light pinks and, I don't know, colors that just don't really fit well with the movie. Again, though, it has the hindsight of being a pre-release item, so I'm willing to cut it some slack. But yeah, the Hasbro figure also has a lot more personality with the sculpt. If you look at this one, she's supposed to be all sassy, but I don't know, she just looks a little goofy. Whereas this one, you definitely see that sass. She's like thrusting her hips. It's very interesting looking. But she looks like she's ready to give you the greatest night of your life and then kill you like this character would. So, yeah, this is a great figure. I mean, who doesn't want Lola from Shark Tale on their shelf? This is a great figure. Jessica Rabbitfish, what's not to love other than being terrified of her? She's great, man. She's great. Luca, the octopus, another surprising one because he's not that big of a character in the movie, yet we ended up getting all these figures of him. And what I love about this figure is that he's made entirely of this squishy rubber material that the other characters are not made out of. So he really has that octopus feel to him. He's very bendy. I want to be careful with this figure because it feels like his head could snap on a whim. It's so fragile, but really, really impressive. Also, the depth of the colors going on here, if you look at all the different tones of aquamarine, blue, and green, it is simply gorgeous. It looks like the sea is reflecting off of his body. I can't even begin to describe how incredible the paint apps are on this guy. That couldn't have been easy to do on this rubber material. And then he's glued onto this hard plastic base with these rubber pieces stuck through so he doesn't fall off of the base. It's seriously impressive design work to have such a fragile and frail figure displayed on such a hard piece here. It's really, really amazing stuff. And even the head sculpt is really impressive given the limitations of the material. Like, you could tell this rubber is not gonna hold the consistency of detail that plastic would, but they still really tried to sculpt in all of these little suction cups and the face. So all in all, a very, very impressive figure. Things get really more interesting when we add the other figure in the mix, because at first glance, this one looks a little better. Look at the face sculpt filled with personality, the pose, the suction cups, everything about this figure looks incredible, but I'm honestly torn on which one is technically better, because, again, that one is based heavily on the 2D artwork and has a more stylized look to it, whereas the Hasbro figure looks much closer to the on-screen counterpart. So, again, I think both of these figures are actually home runs, because they both capture the character in different circumstances. Both are just absolutely phenomenal figures. Frankie, one of our bad sharks, the one that dies pretty early on and kickstarts this whole thing, but he's a real menacing character, so you would want to have him in your toy line because he's an exciting villain for kids to battle. And he does have an action feature. If you pull down on his fin here, his mouth opens up and he has chomping action. He goes, "Oh, I'm gonna eat all your money," because that's what these Shark Tale figures do. They eat up all your money. And there's Frankie. And comparing him with the little figure, again, no bad things. I think both are very, very good. All right, let's see the Shark Slayer in action. "I thought the pursuit of happiness was mid. You didn't deserve the Academy Award. You know what direction I'm gonna knock you in? What? Wild, Wild West." Then, And finally, we have Don Lino, the big bad himself. Not much to say on this one. He's sculpted nice, and he's got the same feature as Frankie. You pull down on the fin, and he talks. Well, he's supposed to, but the mechanism on this figure is a little loose, and I really don't want to break the guy, so we're not going to use that mechanism. But what's cool about the sharks is they're big. They're really big. These figures are like 6 inches tall compared with the 3-inch fish. So they really tower over the fish, and they make for a very impressive display. And truth be told, when you assemble all of these figures together, the Hasbro figures are a real showstopper. What sticks out to me about both of these sets of figures is that when I set out to make this video, I wanted to let you, the viewer, know what the superior set was, because finding either of these sets is going to be an arm and a leg. It's going to be a lot of pain. But I'm going to say both are actually good. I think the playset is good if you have the actual playset. The Fish figures on their own aren't as impressive, but when you put them in the Reef playset, they really pop and they look amazing. It makes for a beautiful statue and display piece. The whole thing, when assembled, has real shelf presence. On the other hand, I think the Hasbro figures look much better individually. So if you wanted just like Oscar and Angie for your shelf, or just the sharks, I think the Hasbro line is the way to go. They're individually much better figures, but overall, both are very impressive and very, very unique sets. Finally, before we close, I do just want to note one last item I did not mention because I don't have it, and that is the Lenny hand puppet. This was a standalone toy from Hasbro, but I thought I should include it because since it is by Hasbro, maybe it could be compatible with the fish. You know, maybe he could eat Angie like he does in that one scene. And I was able to find a photo of the back of the packaging for this toy, and it does picture a second hand puppet that was available that I'm pretty sure is Don Lino, but it could very well be Frankie. It's just so blurry. I'm pretty sure that writing says Lino, though. However, I don't believe this puppet was actually released, as I cannot find anything on this puppet. Now, that's not too surprising given how rare this toy line is, so it is very possible this second Shock puppet did release and is also just extremely elusive like all of the other figures. And those are the Shocktail toys. Now, I would love to hear from the comments. Maybe I missed a couple of toys. Documentation on these is very difficult to find online, so please do let me know if there's any major Shocktail releases in the realm of action figures I don't have or didn't cover in this video. And let me know in the comments what you think of Shocktail. Are you one of Shocktail's mini haters? I'd love to know why. Or are you one of the ardent supporters of Shocktail? Me personally, I love the movie. I watch it quite often. I really do. I think Shocktail's a great film. But I am aware that my nostalgia goggles are blowing the ocean fog just a little bit. So, from the fishes of the deep blue sea to you, thanks for watching me ramble about Shocktail toys, and as always, have a happily ever after. Special thanks to my super swampy supporters, Bonzario, Antonio Bocina, Telephone Wire, SMO3, Pladley, Pizza Topping, Shotgun Justice, Jamie, Jidjip, Tucker Time, Griffin Newman, Sailor Laws, Binks, The Layered Ogre, Don Tizzle, The Luke Rosati, and Boa Usta. If you want to support the channel, consider buying a YouTube membership. But special thanks to you for watching the video all the way until the end. It means a ton.